Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, the co-host for this show, where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn Series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from large chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done-For-You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Kirk Mauriello is the president and co-founder of Virturant, which helps establish chef-created, delivery-only restaurant brands that can be run out of existing restaurant kitchens. Kirk was the COO of a top 50 pizza chain in the Chicago area and a top breakfast and lunch brand. He started in the virtual restaurant business in 2019 and has helped pioneer a new business model for existing restaurants. Kirk, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Chad.
So what is a virtual restaurant?
Well, a virtual restaurant, from a standpoint of a definition, is a restaurant that is designed from a menu standpoint, but it doesn't have any brick and mortar locations that actually for the brand. So the brands strictly live in the social media world, the online ordering world, and such.
So explain to me a little bit more, if you don't mind, about what Virturant does.
Okay, so as Virturant, what we do is we have our own brands that we have created based on culinary type of food. Right now we have 22 brands that we market throughout the country through third-party delivery apps, and then we bring on fulfillment partners, which would be brick and mortar restaurants or kitchens or any type of kitchen that's commercially available, to fulfill those orders as we market them in the marketplace. And then the orders flow directly to those kitchens, whether it be an existing restaurant, a ghost kitchen, or just a commercial kitchen of some sort. And then they fulfill the orders and hand them off to the drivers to deliver to the consumer.
So when you say you have 22 brands, those are like clients?
No, the brands are actually virtual restaurants that we've created.
Okay.
So each one is its own brand. So, for instance, we have a brand called French Toastery, and that brand is all French toast, sides, drinks, things like that. So it's very easy for the consumer to order from. It's limited menu based around the food type.
And where would the locations be? They would be in like a brick and mortar kitchen or any kitchen?
It could be any kitchen that brand would be associated with. So what we would do is we might find a local diner, right, in a market that makes breakfast and lunch and dinner items. And then we ask them, would you like to support and fulfill the orders for our company also? And we pay them to fulfill those orders. So we're marketing it, and then we drive the order to their kitchen. Their kitchen then performs the making of our menu items for our brands. And then the delivery drivers pick it up and deliver it to the consumer.
How did you come up with this idea?
It was an idea that was done out there. Grubhub had come up with an idea of having companies put virtual brands out there. We decided to take it to a different level. They were bringing it to restaurants to create their own virtual brands. We decided that there was a whole business model for this. So we developed the business model. We figured out how to market it properly, how to get the proper SEO for search engines and things like that for the brands, and then partnered with the big third-party delivery companies to put our brands there, and then find those restaurants that were looking for more business. Now, we decided to do that in 2019, and then in 2020, the pandemic hit. And all of a sudden, the business model that we were trying to show the restaurants and the restaurant owners, which had a little bit of pushback because they were so busy, right? Everybody was too busy. All of a sudden, they weren't so busy anymore. So they were looking for help. So by bringing this to them, now we created a whole new business model that actually fits within the restaurant model. So you can have more than one brand because you have all this asset of kitchen employees, cooks, staffing, brick and mortar that you're paying for, and now you can get more productivity out of that space that you're already invested in.
So when you started Virturant, you weren't originally partnering with existing restaurants. You were just starting your own brands.
No, actually, the whole idea was to partner with existing restaurants.
Okay,
but it was to show them a new business model that they could do very well with. But restaurants, the way they were, because they had never really seen this type of business model, it was new. So you had to find people that were more business oriented. That were looking at it saying, okay, wait a second. So if there's more orders that come in, how do I make money at it, right? Because the old way of doing things was the third-party delivery companies take too much, but we designed this differently. So when the third-party delivery companies first came out and they went to restaurants, the whole idea was we're going to charge you 30%, but we're going to bring you more orders. We took it from a different standpoint. We said we're going to build the model with the third-party delivery companies being a function of it. So they provide the delivery service of it, but we're gonna make the brand work, and then we're gonna say the third party delivery company does this additional work for us, whether it's marketing, driving, all those things. So there's a cost to that. So that's built into the cost model now. So it's a little bit different than taking a menu and putting it online. It's taking a menu, pricing it properly, putting it online, and making it a profitable proposition for everybody that's involved in the process.
How important is it to be flexible enough to be able to do that in this kind of new era?
Well, the restaurants, one of the issues restaurants have is that they aren't flexible, right? So you have a lot of brands out there now in the virtual world that are being done a little bit differently than the way we do it. So they create a brand, they put a name behind it, like let's say a celebrity of some sort, right? And then they have this menu, and it's a very strict menu. It's like franchising from the strictness of the menus. What we decided to do, because I was from the restaurant industry, is I said, no, we got to make it easier than that. We're going to create brands. We're not going to worry about celebrities. We're going to utilize ingredients. So we're going to utilize partnerships with Kraft Heinz, and we're going to get the rights to use their trademarks and use their product within our ingredient lists, so that people know they're getting a good product and a high quality product. And then what we're going to do is we're going to market that only within the third-party delivery apps so that we can drive this. But we're going to make it so simple that we have a saying, our brands work within the operations. Your operations don't have to work our brands.
So what's an example of like the simplicity that you guys would have versus, the other way of doing it?
Okay, so the simplicity might be, let's take French toast, for example, right? French toast would be a challah bread. So from an ingredient standpoint, there's no specific ingredients except for the type of food, right? Or the type of ingredient. There's no specifics unless we have an agreement with Kraft, which we have with Kraft Heinz on certain flavors that we're using. But we keep it very, very simple from that standpoint. So it's very much like what the restaurant's already doing. But they're all designed that if any restaurant, if you're an Italian restaurant, if you have a flat top grill, you can make French toast. If you have a fryer, you can make items. If you have a flat top grill, you can make eggs. So there's all kinds of things that are built within this so that we can expand that business model. So we have a lot of bars, bar and grill places that are open from 11 till 2 in the morning. Well, they've come to us now after taking our brands on in those hours, which are typically the brands that aren't breakfast, right? Because they're 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And they've said, well, we have staffing sorry about that.
That's okay.
We have staffing that's already here in the morning prepping. So can we try French toast and pancakes in the morning for those 3 hours and drive revenue during the time that we get no revenue? And I said, absolutely. So, they might take it on and they might do $300 or $400 a day in sales for those particular brands, utilizing their prep staff because they're so easy and functionally being able to be made. Also, that helps keep the cost structure down. Right? If you have to buy specific type of items that are specific to a brand or packaging that's specific to the brand, the costs go higher. Also space within the kitchen. So being a restaurateur, I understood that, and that you're not dealing with one type of restaurant. You're dealing with so many different facets of so many different restaurants. So a place in downtown Chicago might have their storage in the basement. but a place in Florida might have their storage in an upstairs. You never know where it's going to be, so you have to work within. Also, the size of the kitchens and how they can produce food is different. Where do you keep all this extra packaging? Because now you're doing delivery, so everything's packaged. So your packaging business just went up. So you have to keep that to a limited number of packages. So we also we use 3 different size packages, and we design every brand to fit within one of those 3 packages. And there's no labeling, because you're bringing the consumer is receiving it at home or at work, and they've already ordered the brand, so that you don't need this brand recognition and the labeling as much as you did if you had a brick and mortar location where people are walking in and walking out.
As I'm sure a lot of restaurants are attempting to do this, what are some things maybe that are often overlooked when people, first, we've done it this way, we've served customers who come in, they leave, and that's pretty much it. Now it's a whole new thing. What are some things that are often overlooked as people are transitioning into this new mode?
Well, it's actually the easier transition of the two. If you were just a delivery only place and then you went to a customer service situation, it becomes much more difficult. And most restaurants already have some sort of a carry out business within their model, right? I mean, even Chili's and the big companies have, they even market it that way, right? So the transition isn't very difficult. What they run into is that now, which this isn't a problem, it's actually a good thing, is that online orders tend to come in at off times compared to the time that people dine in. Because when you dine in, you plan for that, right? You plan to go out to dinner, and there's certain hours that you plan to go out to dinner. You plan to go out to breakfast, certain hours you plan it. When you're ordering online, the online ordering customer is someone who's getting hungry at a specific time and is looking for an on-demand product. So they want to order and get it fast and things like that. So usually that'll happen just after the peak hours. So now all of a sudden the kitchen ends up being much more productive during times that they wouldn't be doing anything. They might have 3, 4, 5, 10 orders, right? So owners love it. So that was a little bit of a transition for them. And you might need somebody there to pack orders during those times that you normally didn't have to have somebody, right? Or they were doing something else. The staff is always there, but now they're productive and creating revenue, right? And it stops at 2:00 and now we stand around for 3 hours and maybe we clean some stuff. No. We're going to clean the stuff, but we're still going to make orders, right? So it becomes a much more productive situation for the restaurants.
Virturant is still relatively young. What are some of the other brands that you guys have started?
So we have French Toastery, we have Sunrise Sandwich Company, we have a group of 7 breakfast brands that work the whole gamut. And then what happened was, on the third-party delivery companies, you can only order one restaurant at a time, right? So we created a catch-all brand. So we have the Royal Breakfast. So each of the other brands, like Wild Skillets, Excellent Omelets, that are specific to food, now you can order all of those in one brand if you look for Royal Breakfast. So it just created more restaurants. And the whole idea is to create more. When a restaurant goes out and puts their brand out there, they're fishing with a fishing pole, right? They put their brand out there. It's maybe on 4 delivery services. So they've got 4 restaurants. Well, we take our 22 restaurants and we put it into one one fulfillment partner. And now all of a sudden they've got 88 restaurants that people can order from that come to their restaurant. So it's just economies of scale, right? And the stores that do extremely well are 24-hour restaurants, because they usually have most of the inventory already in stock. We also take a standpoint of making it easy for the restaurants. So we allow a lot of customization, and we work with each restaurant individually. In that way, not only on the menu side and the ingredients that maybe they don't have a certain ingredient, and we look at it and say, well, let's not bring that in because we don't want to waste it, and we'll take that item off the menu. Or we also work with them on the pricing schedules too. So instead of saying to them that every burger has to be sold at $12.50, well, wait a second, in downtown Chicago, the price might be different than in a suburb of Chicago, or it might be different in Florida, or it might be different in California. So you have to work with those restaurants to make sure that their profitability is there on selling the items. And that's something that takes more time and energy. But when you do it, it's all about the restaurant's profitability, right? It's making them want to continue to do this.
How popular is breakfast delivery? For middle-aged people, I'm sure when we were kids, like pizza was what you got delivered. And then, as adulthood, for some of us, it was maybe even difficult to accept that you could get your burgers delivered and things like that. And now breakfast. How popular is breakfast?
Yeah. So, in the overall scheme, breakfast is almost as popular as the dinner times in the sales in across the country. And I think that's mainly because a lot of like Subway and Taco Bell and all those companies are now doing a breakfast service. So they realize that breakfast was a bigger thing. What we're finding is that our breakfast brands do just as well as our nighttime brands. But it's a little bit different because there's less competition in the morning than there is in the evening. So, in other words, when you look at breakfast, it's a catch-all, right? Where when you go to dinner, there's Italian, there's Chinese, there's Japanese, there's Korean, there's steakhouse, there's all these different types of dinner places. Where at breakfast, you go to the breakfast place. Like
Right.
it's not you don't go to the French toast place, you don't go to the pancake place, you go to the breakfast place. So it's a little bit different from that standpoint, which creates more of which creates less competition because the restaurants are all the same. They're not. It's not choose. Oh, I'm going to choose today to buy Chinese food. Well, you wouldn't buy that from an Italian restaurant that might be online. But breakfast, you might get eggs and you might get pancakes and you might get skillets and you might get everything all from one type of restaurant.
What were some things that you did to help Virturant get started? Like what were some steps that you took to establish the company?
Well, early on, one of the things that we had was that there were no companies like this, right? So what we were trying to do was, and working with the third-party delivery companies was a challenge because they had never done this. So everything that we're doing today, and we did from when we started to today, and even ongoing now, is that it's all pioneering. It's all the first time it's ever been done. So even down to reporting systems, there's no reporting systems that they didn't have reporting systems. I mean, we have 2,000 brand storefronts available for consumers to order from around the country right now, and that's going to grow to 10,000 over the next 6 to 8 months. So you have to have better reporting systems. You have to be able to track things, and these systems weren't the third-party delivery systems were not designed for this. They were designed for the individual restaurant to do his sales, and that was fine. And now we need aggregated data and things like that. So we had to work with them to show them what's needed. We had to work with them on what's needed for the restaurants. But they like our business model because we bring so much more volume for them than an individual restaurant does. And we spend money on marketing and we buy the marketing spots and we do things within their apps that create more value for them as opposed to an individual restaurant that doesn't understand how to do the marketing or doesn't understand it. It's a complex thing when you're trying to run a restaurant and now this technology thing is there. Restaurateurs don't work that way. They're more about running their restaurants than they're about the technology. So we kind of bring this technology piece to them and make it simplistic, right? So from a Virturant fulfillment partner truly has received the order, make the order, hand the order to a driver. That's it. They don't have to market. They don't have to build it. They don't have to manage it. They don't have to do anything. We do all of that on our end. And then we pay them for fulfilling those orders for us.
How has your experience operating like a pizza franchise or multiple pizza franchises helped you in this endeavor?
That's a great question because I was doing something with someone the other day and I was telling them how different the model is and how exciting this model is compared to franchising. And he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, when I was in franchising, we had 45 restaurants in the franchise I was with, and it was a 50-year-old franchise, so they didn't have a lot of major growth like other franchises have, but was a very good company. If we opened 5 new restaurants in a year, it was like craziness, right? So I'm in the Chicago market and I've got 30 restaurants in the Chicago market, but the Chicago market, even with 30 restaurants, I only reached the south suburbs. So I only reached about 1/3 of the market in the Chicagoland area. Well, with this, I was able to build out and cover 70% of the Chicagoland market in 6 months.
Wow.
So yeah, because we didn't have to build the brick and mortar. We didn't have to do all that. We had to find the fulfillment partner to fill these brands. So all of a sudden, like in Chicago, we reached 6.9 million customers with our brands. So that's a lot of consumers that have the ability to buy one of our brands, that are being fulfilled in that market. So it's a different model. You can grow it really, really fast. And it's a race right now. It's a race. Every company, all the competitors out there, we're all racing to get that market share. And that market share is really the distribution point, which would be considered the kitchens that are making the food, right? So we're racing to that end goal.
So you expect major growth for your company. Do you see the restaurant industry really going more and more virtual?
I don't know if I see it going more and more virtual overall. There will be a saturation point that it gets to, but virtual brands are different because you can turn them on and off. There's a lot of flexibility with it. You can create new ones and get them up and running fairly quickly. For instance, I can have if I create a brand tomorrow, right, which I'm working on a new brand right now, a fried rice brand, fried rice bowl brand. I'll have that in 100 stores in a week.
Oh, wow.
So, and I'll be reaching, 9 million or 10 million consumers in those 100 stores and we can do that in a week. So, and once we get to the point where we have 1,000 locations, that are fulfilling orders, you can get a brand out there so fast, right? So you think about the celebrities that are out there, the chefs that are out there that want to create something unique. They have that ability to come to us and say, hey, I'd love to get my brand out there. How can you help me do that? And I can say, well, we've got these restaurants that fit that profile. These restaurants have the ability to make these foods. We can go out there and we can say, let's go try to bring it out to all those restaurants and put it into the market very, very quickly. Where it would take somebody years and years and years just to build a few stores.
Do you feel like you were, I don't know, I mean, if you started this in 2019 and then COVID hit in 2020, do you feel like you were like a visionary or you hit the lottery or something like that in some ways?
It was very, what's the word to use? It was incredible when COVID hit to see what was happening. And no one knew. We didn't know. I mean, the first thing was restaurants going to be shut down for 2 weeks, right? Let's flatten the curve. And then all of a sudden restaurants were shut down. And owners were looking for something new to go to. And you got to remember, at that point in time, we only have a few brands. We don't have 22 brands at that time. We only have 5 or 6, right? And technology-wise, the technology wasn't fully there yet for what the vision was. So because the technology piece, having consolidated tablets in the restaurants, like you've gone into a restaurant and seen they have a tablet for Grubhub, they have a tablet for Uber, they have all these tablets sitting there and their orders are coming in, right? Well, we have a solution that puts all those orders into one tablet. So we only have to have a tablet and a printer or a tablet and a KDA screen within the restaurants that take in every order from every platform, every social area that we're pulling orders from, are all going to one place. So that technology wasn't fully built out yet. It was there to a degree, but there were things that were missing that needed to be integrated. And because of virtual brands and us coming, we got to sit with one of the companies that we use and really go over, this is what we need. This is what's going to be needed to make this grow further. And they were able to take that knowledge and go out there and make those things happen for us. So that's helped us expand much faster. Even though COVID hit, it took a little bit of work to figure it out fast.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I would say that because of COVID, it probably forced the industry about 5 years ahead of where it would have been.
So it may have caught up to where it is now over time, but it just really accelerated the process.
It accelerated the process. It made it easier to get a restaurant interested in it. Like my sales pitch to a restaurant changed with COVID. And it changed as the restaurants asked us different questions, right? As they were saying, well, these are our needs, and this is what we need, and this is how we do it. We got it down now. Like I know, and you want to be able to cover as many restaurants as possible. You want to have any type of restaurant be able to do brands, right? And then some competitors have gone to the what they call the dark kitchen, right? So they have their one brand and they bring that to restaurants as their single brand. We like to bring the basket of brands. Because we feel that there's more touch points for the consumer to find you, right? If they're not looking for a particular brand, they might be looking for a particular type of food.
Who are some, if there are any, who are some of like maybe your mentors or people in the restaurant industry who have been particularly beneficial in terms of offering you advice as you move forward in this endeavor?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. my first endeavor into the business was in the pizza business, and the company I worked for was Aurelio's Pizza out of Chicago, and it was a family-owned business. I was worked very well with the CEO of the company, Joe Aurelio, and helped him take the company from a family-style company to something a little more corporate. Adding some different technologies in there, things like that. Learned a lot about the technology side and how it could make it work. So we were able to do about $55 million a year in sales and have a corporate staff of 5 people, which was the leanest in the whole franchise industry. Okay, nobody had $10 million in sales per corporate employee, not even close. But we outsourced a lot of things. But we learned the right things to do with that. Then then when I left Aurelio's, I went and we had bought with some investors a brand called Honey Jam Cafe, and that was owned by the Portillo Restaurant Group out of Chicago. And Portillo's, as you might know, just went public on the NASDAQ, and they're going to be opening up about 500 stores over the next 5 years, I think, is what their goal is. So I had the pleasure of getting to sit with Dick Portillo a few times when we were going through a lot of things, because we were still renting our buildings from him, and got to sit down with him. And there's nothing like sitting down with a billionaire restaurateur and hearing how he did it, what it took, just the little nuances and the things. And he started in a little hot dog shack and built it into a $1 billion empire selling hot dogs and hamburgers. Wow. So it was interesting to get the insight from him on how things went and how much trial there was and how many little failures there were to get to where it needed to be. And he said the main thing is just stay focused. Stay focused. If you know it's the right thing to do, stay focused with it the whole time.
Hey, Kirk, I really appreciate your time today. Congratulations on your success with Virturant. You're kind of a pioneer in a much needed industry. How can people find out more about it?
They can go right to our website at Virturant.com, and that's VIRTURANT.com. You can find us there. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Facebook, all the different areas. But we're looking for restaurants around the country to fulfill orders. We haven't even scratched the surface overall. We're very successful, but we can probably grow 100 times the size that we are because the market is so large overall.
Okay. Well, best of luck in the future, and I really appreciate your time today, Kirk. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.